Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here. This is my Market MRI Pro update for Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Fed Day. My email is marketmripro@gmail.com. My Google group's called Top Down Trader. Fed cut 25 basis points today. It was interesting. Initially, markets traded higher. Everything at one point was positive. And then I watched my portfolio, and this is my model portfolio that I did this year, moving a 6 to 10% move up and down with every paragraph. But the interesting thing is it ended right about where it was before the rates came out. And if it wasn't for Baidu, it would have been a break-even day, but Baidu had a killer day. Um, and really, I'll take it. Um, we'll talk about the day as we go forward. Disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. Anything I talk about should be taken in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate the tools of top-down analysis and how I apply them. Trading involves risk. You and you alone are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky and should consult with your financial advisor. Before making trades, I have tools on multiple platforms, but I'm an independent trader. My Google group's called Top Down Trader. I just use it as my mailing list and to have some closed sessions of education, member education at no charge. It will ultimately transition to a different platform such as Discord. I used to just do an email blast and it came back from half the people, including family members, marked as spam by their email provider. So I said that made no sense and I stopped doing it that way. So just go to Google Groups, go to all groups, look for a top-down trader, sign up, and you'll be part of the family. No cost. And I'll give you discounts if you buy any of my tools. Palm Beach Gardens meeting is October 26 and 27. Marriott Palm Beach Gardens, 2 days, packed of education instruction, 1250. From the time the meeting starts until we finish on Monday, it's a Sunday and Monday meeting. You won't be touching your wallet when it comes to food or drinks. We've got beverages throughout the day. We've got breakfast, lunch, both days, and dinner will either be at on my yacht, Stocks and Docks, or it'll be at a Capital Grill, depending on the weather. We'll make a call probably, um, and we'll know in advance what the answer is when we start the meeting on Sunday. 155 a night, but you need to email me at marketmripro@gmail.com and I'll get you the code and everything you need and send you a link to sign up. There is another meeting in town on Friday and Saturday. My good friend John Person is having a seminar October 24th and 25th. It's a separate fee, but why not come for both meetings? That way you pay for airfare once, and the hotel that he's using is less than a mile from where my meeting is. So close Uber ride or cab ride or whatever. So we had the big day. I don't think anybody was surprised. If there was disappointment, I think was because the lack of dissent and the lack of comments about the 50 basis point consideration. And the only person that voted for 50 was the guy that Trump put on today or this week. Thursday, we'll get some jobless claims in the Philadelphia Fed manufacturing. I always wonder if the Fed's already seen these results before. So they're probably not going to make a huge difference, leading indicators as well. I'm kind of curious about Lennar's earnings, which we'll get after hours on Thursday. Cracker Barrel was down on their earnings. I think they took some hits in their same store sales with their change in rebranding. It's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment not to know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. Obviously, a light week of earnings as we get closer to the fourth quarter earnings. If you have questions about Market MRI Pro, how to use it, what is it, what's it cost, what if you got my product and other platforms, what can I do for you? Email me at marketmripro@gmail.com. If you have issues from a tech support, installations, or it's not working right, Praveen at coding@marketmripro.com. Consider my top-down trader group. I forgot one other thing. There's a $400 rebate to anybody that attends the meeting. So let's say you want my tool, and let's say you want it before the meeting. I send you a link. You sign up for $12.50, and then you also go and join that top-down trader group. and you're going to get 500 bucks off the price of the meeting, off of the price of the tool. I'm sorry, the 400 plus the 100. And I haven't set what the meeting price is, but I typically set it at the meeting at $300 or $400 off already. So if you come to the meeting, it'll be discounted 400 plus 400 plus one. You'll get the tool for about 1,100 bucks for year one, and it's 495 or less for subsequent years. So that rebate can help you even before the meeting. Once you pay, that 400 bucks off is yours. All right, and then if you, I say this, and I'm actually serious. If you bring your loved ones, it's a beautiful area in Palm Beach Gardens. This is another hotel that I've had meetings at before, 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away from the meeting hotel on the beach. I used to live 2 or 3 doors down. It's a great beach, great place to hang out while you're in the meeting for your loved ones. All right, let's take a look at the market that we saw today. So let's start with the daily briefing. So we could see the diamonds led to the upside up 0.54. The Russell's up 0.27. Spiders were down a bit, 0.12. And the Qs were down 0.2. So nothing was really hurt. Bitcoin was down all day, down over 1%. Volatility, interestingly, was down. Dollar was up 0.33. If you look at the highs of the session, you never really saw a big move in the spiders or the Qs all day. In fact, they were negative most of the day, closer to 1% down. But the small caps and the diamonds really had a strong session. They gave up most of it, and that might be a concern. If we look at the new highs minus new lows at the NYSE and the NASDAQ at 52 weeks, still positive and holding right under triple digits. One concerning thing to me is we continue to have less than half of the stocks participating in the U.S. markets. S&P 1500 only 49% were up on the day, NASDAQ only 45, and NYSE only 46. So if you have a big portfolio, you probably look like mine without the Baidu, which was pretty much close to break even. Baidu made a big difference for me today, which we knew last night because it was up 10 or 11 bucks after hours, probably because I don't know why, but maybe it's a TikTok and maybe some thawing in the Chinese-American relationship. If we look at the S&P sectors, you could see what led today were financials, staples, and energy. Certainly a flip from what we've been going through of late. Actually, I want to look over here. And then communications were up 0.26. The laggards were industrial, tech, and discretionary. And you could see over here that tech and discretionary over the last 20 days have been doing well. And interestingly, over the last 20 days, energy and communications have been the leaders. The one thing that was perhaps reversion to the mean today and making up for being down so much before were the staples, which look very different than they have been looking up 0.6 over 20 days, down 0.3. So not a strong market, mixed market at best, a little bit bothered by the lack of participation. When I go to my timing model, there won't be any change. Weekly, looking at the lines underneath, you see green on all four, spiders, Qs, diamonds, and Russell still in a buy on the weekly. And if we look at the daily, you'll see that it's coming. I mean, the daily is kind of interesting. Certainly the spiders and the Qs are both well above the WMA. It's going to take a pretty big washout for them to get at risk. Look at the bottoming tail that we saw today. So this is what happened. Opened here, or actually opened at the top of that bar, maybe traded up early, traded down, and closed just below it open. That could be a bottoming candle, and maybe we turn around and go higher. Both of these are just a day or two off of all-time closing highs, and all-time highs were set yesterday. So they are remaining a buy signal. 3 dojis in a row on the Russell, lots of indecision there in a buy signal, and kind of a indecision looking day in what's really a sideways market here, or consolidating in the diamonds. So nothing's really changed in our timing model. except we got a big event, the rate cuts out of the way. If we look at where we are in the major indices, to me, the dominant theme has not changed. Mild pullback, perhaps on the spiders and the Qs, support at the 17, which we're really talking no more than 2% away, 5% away will get you to the 50. Do I think we're going there? No. Seems like we're going to go higher, but will we go sideways, consolidate, maybe something like this for a few more days? Certainly wouldn't surprise me. You can see the negative seasonality. If we look at the Qs, you'll see the same exact picture, starting to pull back off of just setting a high yesterday. You got seasonality here that's not great, not horrible, and you've got lots of support underneath if you look at that 17 and the 50. Again, my guess is we've got support underneath, and worst case, we have a 3 to 5% pullback. I think as long as nothing changes drastically on the inflation numbers, I think this market will be higher at the end of the year, which I've been saying. It would not surprise me to see a couple days or a week or more of a little bit of a pullback. Same thing with the diamonds kind of consolidating here. Did say set an intraday high today. Didn't last very long. Not a closing high. And you could see the diamonds are easing their way with seasonality that's a little bit lower right here. But all of these are well positioned with the 17 and 50 just underneath. And then I was sort of a bizarre candle on the Russell, just shows you the range the markets had. A lot of it occurred. I don't want the cues again. A lot of it occurred during Powell's speech as things went up and down based upon commentary, but really finished, you know, 0.27, everything was mostly unchanged, minimal moves led by the diamonds up. And again, some weak seasonality, and you've got 50 and 200 support, and you see these pullbacks all the time. We're not going to get this thing. I'd be very surprised unless somewhere lurking that I don't see as a recession. That is the one thing that could cause a lot of damage. Now, we were, wrong button, a little bit concerned about the VIX, but the VIX reversed today, opened up at the high, closed at the low, was down almost 4%. One thing that was up, and since I'm going back to Europe, maybe I won't be that upset, is the dollar finished on the higher part of the, I keep hitting the wrong thing, near the high of its session, and you could see it opened here, traded all the way down, and closed just off the high. Net net, the dollar was up 0.33. I made the comment going back to Europe. I was in Spain 10 days ago, in Barcelona, and boy, things were expensive. Dollar was weak. So is this a bottoming signal of the dollar? Yeah, I think it could be. And that, you know, a little bit of a rise is no big deal. We got a long ways to go before the dollar is problematic. We look at commodities, they certainly like a weak dollar, don't they? But they also like inflation. And I think with the Fed cutting rates in their conversation, maybe they downplayed the inflation and maybe gold and silver come back to earth. So I did take some profits on my GLD. It ended up down 0.76, finishing at 337. I'm looking after hours. Gold is at 36.95, so it's down a little bit more. So I would not surprised to see gold come back some, but I think inflation is still an issue, and that means gold will ultimately go higher. Silver has more uses perhaps than gold, maybe moved more. You could see silver was down like gold. They were down 2% today. So we'll see what happens with silver and gold. Both of them have had great runs. Oil reversed compared to Tuesday, still holding at the 50. Natural gas traded up to the 50 and reversed. That's not so hot. And then this is what I wanted to see was how much would the 10 years and the 30 years go up if the market was viewed as cutting too much. I think if we cut 50, you would have seen steepening of the yield curve and these would have gone much higher. 10 years up 1%, the 30-year was up 0.62%, still lower in their pattern, still supportive of the market, I believe. As long as we stay below the 5%, as long as we don't see them go up in a straight line, I think for now rates will be tame. If we look at the buckets, some of the weakness resolved, some of the strength resolved. We move more towards a neutral market, no signal, nothing more to say. From a market breadth, if we look on the left, here's the NYSE, opened, topping candle, bottoming, closed here with the open bar. So it actually opened down here and closed up here. So it was up on the session, and but really not a giant change from yesterday. And if you look at the NASDAQ, it had another down session with a bit of a bottoming tail. You look at the 50, which is sitting here at 2850. You look at this, which closed at 21,439 at 600 points. That's 3%. That 50 would not be horrible if we visited there. Now we set a nominal new high during the day here as the stocks above the moving averages come down. The AD line was down, so we still got divergences. On the NYSE, stocks above the moving averages are down, and the AD was down. Interestingly, we had another bango. I forget to mention it because it's so far back I've started to ignore it, but we did have on the NYSE back here with the last one being August 11th, we did have Hindenburg omens. So they're still there in the back of my mind, but I kind of think those Eurekas and the new highs take them off the table. So nothing here that's an overt signal. And if I look at the breadth with the specifically look at the new high, new 13-week new high, new lows, 0.67, 0.79, 0.86, 0.77, all of them picked up today. The stocks that more new highs than new lows at 13 weeks, none of them are at a signal, and you still see divergences with the AD lines. So if I have to put the markets together, I don't think anything has changed except we got the big news out of the way. Seasonality is horrible right now. The worst 2 weeks of September are the 2 weeks that are coming. There's not much of an excuse needed to see the market trade sideways or have a modest sell-off here. I would be surprised if the 50s don't hold if we get that far. And again, it's only 3 to 5%. And then I think the markets turn around and go to set higher highs. The only thing that would concern me is if we started talking recession because that Philadelphia manufacturing dropped below -20. I'm not expecting that. Neither are the predictions. Communication still leading. Discretionary still strong regardless of what happened today. Those are where the big strength of the markets are, and they have been. If we go into the JAS layout, you can see we've increased the number of stocks today because it was a more positive day, 3821. So every day we're going to swim in a pool that includes all the NYSE, all the Amex, and all the NASDAQ. Now we filter it for $1 and 100,000 shares to get rid of crap that doesn't trade much, bond funds, preferred shares, etc. And then the rest of them get put into sectors and industry groups so that when I go to my top-down picture here, I've got, if I hit all this, you're going to see the same number of stocks down here at 3821. So if we look at percentage move today, communications, financial, and staples. All right, well, let's look at those. Those are the top three movers on the day. You could see that technology would have been in second place. And in fourth place would have been energy if we looked at the 2-day momentum. But today, let's look at percentage move. If I come over here and I take percentage move on the industry groups, I can take the top. I clicked the wrong one. All right, I could take the top by percentage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I told you financials were strong. You could see how many were in the top industries and the top sectors. Let's go down here. Let's put on a $5 and 500,000 shares. And let's look for pullbacks and uptrends. Hit OK. And let's then rank them by the number of positive impulses. Let's just see what comes to the top. XNet, communication services. I don't know anything about them. Big move here. pullback and a consolidation. It looks like it's ready to go. There's my new dynamic signal, CPR, volume breakout momentum, RS turning up in OBV, UNFI, natural food. Again, not the kind of thing that I'm typically buying. Um, Certainly breaking out of a pattern here. All right, kind of like a W on that angle. It had a CPR, volume breakout, and momentum. You could see relative strength is turned up, OBV is turned up. Um, Again, not my favorite kind of stock. Let's look at fundamentals. Earnings are either out 930 or 10.7, but they're negative compared to positive. I don't like that. Revenue projection looks like it's pulling back some. I just don't like the fundamentals. I go to the next one. PFGC, another food group, much nicer looking chart. Buy high to go higher. You could argue perhaps that this thing is in a bit of a channel here. I have to get Praveen to get me a better channeling tool. And certainly it's more closer to the high of that channel than the low of the channel. And so maybe we'd be a little careful there. But that one's in a beautiful coiling move higher, and it had massive volume. Did it have earnings today? 11.5. Nope. $1.14. So flat earnings, 16.86 versus 15.41. A little bit of growth in revenue. Not my favorite industry group or sector. I mean, unfortunately. I skipped PSN, Parsons Corporation. Not a bad look. Nice uptrend. Pull back and a retest of the 200. Retest again and a big gap up today. A gap up. Took out the 17 and the 50. CPR, volume, breakout momentum, relative strength, OBV look good. Is it extended? It's got 100, but look how close it is to the moving averages. When I see that, I ignore. I'm looking for when it's far away, not when it just came off of it. And if we look at fundies, earnings were 8.6, 74 cents will come in. So very flat earnings, down a little bit. Revenue I don't have. No dividend. Boring. It's another one of these boring industrial plays. Let's see what it says here on news. Counter nuclear smuggling system deployment. Are they another? So it's a defense stock. I don't know if they do drones, radar engineering solutions. All right, well, I like the industry. Nice uptrend pullback. This one might be interesting here. Next one down, we looked at ELVA, Electrovia, cheap stock, ZG, Zillow Group. Um, you know, I don't think they got helped by the Fed today. The long end of the curve did not come down, and that's where rates are determined for mortgages. Kind of a shooting star there. I probably wouldn't chase that. USB, first of the banks. Tennyson, boy, this thing's been on a run, hasn't it? Sideways consolidation, and perhaps you could say a flag breakout, maybe, kind of, sort of. Tennyson looks interesting there. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I like to do, let's just kill all this, is to go back to the impulse, which is my big list, and let's add a couple things here. Let's actually start all over. Let's start with the 2-day momentum. Start with the $5 and 500,000 shares above the 200-day moving average. We got 5 of them. Let's see if any of them look playable. ABT, Abbott. Abbott used to pay a big dividend. I think now it's probably closer to 1.5%, 1.96. Very steady on earnings. $1.30 versus $1.21. A little bit of growth. 1063 versus 1140. A little bit of growth. The problem with biotech and pharma is that they're under this gun from Trump wants to reduce drug prices. So, um, you know, is it that exciting? No. I'd like to see it break out above this before I get excited, but it did have multiple momentum bars in a row, two blue in a row, breakout, CPR, not quite finished with the move down here. I'd probably pass on this one. Court, um, biotech likes lower rates because they finance things a lot. So I wasn't surprised to see, at least early on today, LABU, which is one of my holdings, was doing okay. How did it end up? Probably not so good. It ended up flat on the day, down 11 bucks. Total 78.05. The stock itself was up 7 cents. So this is in a group that's under a lot of pressure. If we just look at this candle, however, a CPR breakout, volume breakout, double momentum from a squeeze, something might be setting up here. It doesn't work for me yet. F1, Formula One. Um, and getting close to a breakout there. Um, Again, the driver here is these two blue dots in a row on the bottom, which is a momentum signal. Here is an IPO that has really broken out with these momentum dots, but it's still relatively cheap stock. And here's that UNFI again. I guess if I had to pick my favorite stock that I've looked at so far, it'd probably be UNFI. Very quickly, let's look at the FANG stocks. Oh, and you know why they're not there? Because you got to clear your filters. All right, Apple. Let's see what Apple's doing. Apple broke out above the 200. You had the golden cross 50 above the 200. Looks like it wants to go higher. Has the launch of its new phones and watches and some software this week. Amazon had a rough day today, but did anything change? No, and I like the fact that it's got a bit of a bottoming tail. Does have a dynamic sell signal. Maybe it pulls back to the 50. Google's been the star. Google's setting up perhaps a little bit of a flag here. Meta, you love it when you do the right thing, which is you pull back to the 50 and you bounce. Didn't get the bounce that we had here off the 50, but we did have a bounce a couple days ago and looks like it's just pausing to refresh. Looks fine. Microsoft, break above the 50 would be interesting. Netflix, same thing. Boy, Microsoft, Netflix, just waiting for that impulse that says it's moving. NVIDIA had a rough day today. Um, I thought it would have sold off early, and early on it was relatively flat. The Chinese did some more, can't use it here, stuff. It's such a big market. It can't be a good thing for any company. And lastly, Tesla was up there $4 today. It wouldn't surprise me to see it consolidate up here after the massive run. So FANG stocks still look as good as anything, and a couple of them are setting up in really, really nice buy points, Microsoft and Netflix. Have an awesome day in the market on Thursday. There is a good chance there won't be a video tomorrow night because I've got a dinner late in Lauderdale and then I'm flying out Friday to a investing meeting in Vegas for the weekend. But I will do my video from Vegas. Have everybody have a great night.